HFY stories, just a mining drill. The first thing Lieutenant Harris noticed when he woke up was the silence on an alien mining outpost. Silence was never a good sign. The station's hum of machinery was as much a constant as the gravity generators, but now, the quiet felt oppressive, broken only by the faint hiss of the station's emergency ventilation system. "Status report," Harris barked, though he knew no one would answer. His squad had been scattered during the ambush, and the mining crew was either dead or captured. He gritted his teeth. Humanity's first joint mining venture with the Vashari was supposed to be a symbol of interstellar cooperation, not a battleground for raiders. The ambush had come out of nowhere, pirates of some kind, though not a species Harris recognized. They moved fast, disabling the station's defense grid and slaughtering anyone who resisted. Harris had been pinned down in a maintenance corridor, armed with nothing more than his sidearm and... He looked down at his hand, the mining drill. It was a standard-issue plasma bore, designed to cut through solid rock with surgical precision, heavy, unwieldy, and not exactly meant for combat, but it was all he had. Harris took a deep breath and gripped the drill tightly. He wasn't going to let those raiders get away with this. He might be outgunned and outnumbered, but humanity didn't give up without a fight. The first raider didn't even see it coming. Harris crept through the dimly lit corridor, his footsteps muffled by the soft vibration of the station's floor panels. The alien was busy rifling through a storage locker, its back turned. Harris didn't hesitate. He activated the drill. The plasma cutter flared to life with a high-pitched whine, and the beam sliced clean through the raider's torso. The alien let out a gurgling shriek and collapsed in a heap. "Effective," Harris muttered, wiping the sweat from his brow. He scavenged the raider's weapon, a crude energy rifle, and slung it over his shoulder. The drill was still his primary weapon. It wasn't just a tool anymore, it was his lifeline. Harris's rampage through the station became the stuff of legend. The raiders, expecting easy prey, found themselves hunted by a lone human wielding what they dismissively referred to as just a mining drill, but Harris proved them wrong at every turn. He disabled their ship's docking clamps, trapping them on the station. He used the plasma bore to carve through bulkheads, setting traps and ambushes in the maze-like corridors. He even modified the drill to overclock its power output, turning it into a makeshift plasma cannon for one spectacular assault on the raiders' command center. By the time reinforcements arrived, both human and Vashari, Harris had cleared the station. The surviving raiders were cowering in an airlock, begging for mercy. The Vashari commander who greeted Harris later looked at the drill in his hands with wide, black eyes. "You defeated an entire raiding party with that?" Harris shrugged, a tired grin spreading across his face. "It's not just a mining drill, it's human ingenuity." The story spread quickly, becoming a rallying cry for humanity's place in the galaxy. Sure, they might not have the most advanced technology or the biggest fleets, but they had something better, the ability to turn even the simplest tools into weapons of survival. And Harris, he became a legend, known throughout the stars as the man who turned a mining drill into humanity's deadliest weapon. HFY Stories, Just a Mining Drill, Part 2. The mining station, now fully secured, was eerily quiet in the aftermath of Harris's one-man war. The once bustling facility lay in ruins, bulkheads scorched, corridors littered with the debris of frantic combat, and the distant smell of burned circuits hanging in the air. Lieutenant Harris leaned against a console in the command center, his adrenaline finally wearing off. His arms ached from wielding the overclocked plasma drill, and his uniform was singed in more places than he could count. Still, he couldn't help but chuckle to himself. A single man with a mining drill had outsmarted an entire raider crew. Humanity's stubbornness struck again. "Lieutenant, you're insane," said Captain Juratal, the Vashari commander who had led the rescue fleet. Her tall, crystalline form shimmered faintly under the station's emergency lights. "No one would believe this if we hadn't witnessed the aftermath ourselves." Harris shrugged, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Sometimes, being underestimated works in our favor." Juratal tilted her head, her dark eyes narrowing. "The reports said you not only disabled their ship but reconfigured the mining laser array to act as a targeting weapon for the station's damaged turrets. That level of improvisation is..." She paused, searching for the right word. "Unnerving." "Adapt and overcome," Harris replied, tapping the side of his head. "Human motto." The Vashari captain gave a low, humming laugh, perhaps, but now you've ensured these raiders will think twice before crossing humans again. Word of this will spread. Harris sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Great, just what I needed, a reputation. Days later, Harris was back on Earth, sitting in a stuffy military briefing room. His superiors sat across the table, stone-faced and unreadable. The Vashari Council is impressed, said Admiral Lane, a no-nonsense woman who had overseen humanity's interstellar operations for years. They've officially requested you as a liaison for their fleet. Apparently, you've become something of a folk hero among their miners. Can't imagine why, Harris deadpanned. Lane raised an eyebrow. They've nicknamed you the Driller. Harris groaned, running a hand over his face. You're kidding me. I wish I were, Lane replied, but this isn't just about your heroics. The Vashari are eager to formalize our alliance after this incident. They see humans as resourceful, in a way that complements their own methods. This could be a turning point for us. Harris leaned back in his chair, the weight of the situation settling on him. He'd signed up to serve, not to be a poster boy for interspecies diplomacy. Still, he couldn't deny the opportunity. Fine, he said finally, but I'm bringing the drill. Harris's new role as humanity's representative brought him to places he'd never imagined. He toured mining facilities across the Vashari Empire, sharing stories and strategies. The drill became a symbol, a reminder that even in the harshest environments, humans could adapt and thrive. But Harris knew the galaxy wasn't done testing humanity. The raiders were just one threat among many. Somewhere out there, other forces watched, waiting to see if Earth's upstart species could hold its own. He kept the plasma drill by his side, not as a weapon, but as a promise. A promise that humanity wouldn't just survive the stars. They'd conquer them. End of Part 2. HFY Stories, Just a Mining Drill, Part 3. Lieutenant Harris, the Driller, as the Vashari miners now affectionately called him, sat in the cockpit of a Vashari light cruiser, watching the swirling lights of hyperspace. He had always thought space travel would be glamorous, full of wonder and exploration, but after months of diplomatic missions and minor morale tours, it was starting to feel like another job. His plasma drill, refurbished and polished, sat strapped to the bulkhead beside him. It was no longer just a tool, it was a symbol, a piece of human ingenuity that had saved countless lives. Destination reached, chimed the smooth, synthetic voice of the Vashari navigation system. The lights outside coalesced into pinpoints of stars, and a hulking asteroid mining station came into view. Harris leaned forward in his seat, frowning. Something felt off. The station's lights flickered erratically, and scorch marks marred its exterior. As the cruiser approached, Harris could see the wreckage of smaller mining vessels floating aimlessly nearby. Commander Jorital, you seeing this? Harris said, tapping the comms panel. Her voice crackled through the speakers. I see it, Lieutenant. Scans show no life signs on the station. We should proceed with caution. Harris stepped off the cruiser's ramp and into the eerie silence of the mining station. The place was a mess. Cargo crates were overturned, machinery lay dormant, and the occasional dark smear of dried blood told a grim story. Raiders again? He asked, scanning the area with his rifle raised. Unlikely, Jorital replied, her crystalline body shimmering faintly in the station's dim emergency lights. There's no evidence of looting. Whatever happened here was not a typical attack. Harris's grip on his rifle tightened. The idea of something worse than raiders didn't sit well with him. As they moved deeper into the station, the silence was broken by a low, rhythmic thumping sound. Harris stopped in his tracks, holding up a hand. You hear that? Jorital nodded, her head tilting as she analyzed the sound. It's coming from the core, could be residual energy from the mining laser. Or something else, Harris muttered. They pushed on, descending through levels of twisted corridors until they reached the central mining core. The sight that greeted them made Harris's blood run cold. The core chamber was bathed in an eerie green light, and massive chunks of the asteroid's raw ore was suspended midair, seemingly defying gravity. At the center of the room was an enormous, pulsating machine, alien in design and glowing with otherworldly energy. It was clearly not of Vashari or human origin. What the hell is that? Harris whispered. Jorital stepped closer, her crystalline limbs glinting in the green light. It's not a mining apparatus. This is something ancient, something alive. The pulsating machine gave a sudden, sharp hum, and the room began to vibrate. Harris instinctively raised his rifle, but before he could fire, a wave of energy slammed into him, sending him sprawling. Harris woke up to chaos. The station's power had fully restored, but it was clear that was no gift. The Onestead systems were alive with activity, but not under human or Vashari control. Mechanical drones, fused with parts of the alien machine, were swarming the corridors, building something, or worse, preparing for something. "We need to shut it down," Harris said, dragging himself to his feet. His plasma drill glinted from where it lay, knocked loose in the chaos. He grabbed it, feeling its familiar weight. "Agreed," Dorotal said, clutching her energy staff, "but the core's energy field is growing stronger. We may not have much time before it destabilizes completely, or worse, activates fully." Fighting through the drones was like navigating a living maze. The station seemed to react to their movements, sealing bulkheads and rerouting them through unfamiliar corridors. Harris's plasma drill became his saving grace once again, slicing through obstacles and overwhelming drones in close combat. They finally reached the core chamber again, now a swirling storm of light and energy. The alien machine loomed larger, its pulsations more erratic and intense. Harris glanced at Dorotal. "We can't disarm this thing, can we?" "No," she said grimly, "but we can destroy it." Harris nodded, gripping his drill. He adjusted the power settings, overclocking the plasma bore once more. The drill hummed, its energy output spiking dangerously. "Cover me," he said. Dorotal nodded, stepping forward to intercept the oncoming drones as Harris charged toward the core. The heat from the pulsating energy was unbearable, but he pushed through, his drill blazing. The first strike hit the outer casing, sending a shower of sparks flying. The machine screamed, a sound so alien it rattled Harris's bones, but he didn't stop. He drove the plasma beam deeper, carving into the glowing heart of the device. The machine began to collapse in on itself, the energy field spiraling out of control. Dorotal shouted something, but Harris couldn't hear her over the deafening roar of the core's destruction. The next thing Harris remembered was being dragged onto the cruiser's ramp, his ears ringing and his vision blurry. Dorotal stood over him, her crystalline form cracked but intact. "You did it," she said simply. Harris managed a weak smile. "Told you. It's not just a mining drill." The station imploded behind them, taking the alien machine and its secrets with it. Back on Earth, Harris's superiors were less than thrilled about the destruction of a multi-billion credit mining station, but the discovery of an alien artifact, and its potential threat, overshadowed their complaints. "You've done it again, Harris," Admiral Lane said, shaking her head. "Saved the day with that damn drill of yours. I suppose we should start issuing them to the whole fleet." Harris smirked. "It's not the drill, Admiral, it's the hands holding it." Still, as he looked at the stars, he couldn't shake the feeling that the alien machine was just the beginning. Humanity's place in the galaxy was secure, for now, but somewhere out there, other ancient threats were waiting. And when they came, Harris would be ready. With his drill,